When Angel Hernandez retired, ending his long career being the worst hated umpire in baseball, the first thought was who the next one would be. But also, really, would there be a next one? Are there any umpires who could actually top Angel's skills of not only being a bad umpire, but going about things in a way everyone hated? Well, the answer to that was there always were others. It's just that when Angel Hernandez was umpiring, nobody was outshining him. It's like Shohei Ohtani on the Dodgers. Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman are great players, Hall of Fame players, but as long as they're teammates with Shohei, nobody will be more of a celebrity on that team. But now that this spot for worst and most hated umpire is up for grabs, Doug Eddings wants it more than Simba wanted to be king. Bro's like LeBron in Game 6 of the 2012 Conference Finals. He's gunning for the crown. And it's actually been this way for years. He just was never going to get more recognition than Angel. Doug Eddings began umpiring all the way back when he was 12 years old at the request of his mother, who was on the board of the local Little League, and I cannot think of a more fitting way for any umpire's career to start. His mom making it happen because she had a voice in the higher-ups. Explains why it looks like this guy thinks everything should be perfect and fed to him. Eddings went on to consistently umpire and officiate different sports through his life until he started umpiring in the minor leagues, eventually making it to the big leagues and umpiring American League games in the late 90s, and has umpired in both leagues since 2000. He's worked in a ton of postseason games, many notable ones and just general baseball moments that were significant through the years, like Cal Ripken Jr.'s final game on October 6, 2001. He was the second base umpire when Barry Bonds tied Hank Aaron for the all-time home run list by hitting his 755th career homer in San Diego, and called Carlos Rodon's no-hitter in 2021. Just based off of that, he seems like an innocent and normal and experienced umpire, but he's much more than that. The first big Doug Eddings controversy was back in 2005 during the ALCS between the White Sox and Angels. In the state of today, that's a wild thing to think about, a playoff series between the White Sox and Angels, but they weren't always this bad. It was game 2 of the series, and after quickly striking out to end the 9th inning in a tie game, AJ Pierzynski, who was on his way to the dugout, then started running to first after Eddings ruled it a no catch, meaning he can go to first and the catcher either has to tag Pierzynski or throw to first for the putout. It was a strange call because the ball didn't look to hit the ground, which is what would make this mandatory. Eddings never made an audible sound or called that the ball hit the ground, and because of this, Angels catcher Josh Paul just assumed the inning was over. So not only did it really seem like Paul caught the ball, but Eddings never even made this call clear, a call that was likely false, as even the announcers calling the game, who are neutral, Joe Buck and Tim McGarver, felt the ball was clearly caught.
Clearly, he caught the ball, and the catcher knows whether it's a short hop or you catch it cleanly. Whether there's leather.
The call wasn't reversed despite an argument. The guy running for Pierzynski would immediately steal second and then score on a ball hit off the wall to walk it off. White Sox win. Eddings over the years has simply gotten a reputation for being a bad umpire. Back in 2011, a report in the Hardball Times, which is an analytical baseball site, had Eddings as having the largest strike zone among all major league umpires that year. And I mean, can you blame them? This isn't even 2011. This is more recent. Anything remotely around the vicinity of the plate is a strike. He also must be a White Sox fan, as it seems to be like he has a thing for having calls go their way. A couple of years ago in a game between the White Sox and Blue Jays, Eddings had an insanely bad game behind the plate with his calls. A game that these bad calls ended up seemingly favoring the White Sox, and because of this, the Blue Jays hitting coach made it a point to go out to exchange the lineup cards the next day and show Eddings and the umpires how bad the previous game was call-wise, and how much it went against their team. Usually the managers of both teams are the ones who go out and exchange the lineup cards, so for the hitting coach to specifically do this was clearly him trying to make a statement, and the umpires were not having it, ejecting him before the game even began. Eddings has also gotten a reputation for having a bias against the Padres, and whether he feels that way or not, there's at least evidence showing that he's screwed them over a number of times over the years, and you think he at least knows somewhat what he's doing because of it. Like, it's so obvious. It started back in July of 2021 when the Padres were playing the Marlins. Fun fact, the game I actually just so happened to be at, and Eddings had an awful game. But here's the catch. He didn't make many bad calls that went against the Marlins, more so against the Padres. Tommy Pham was ejected. Skip Schumacher, who was a Padres coach at the time before becoming the Marlins manager, which is where he is today, was also ejected. And there were so many missed calls against San Diego that the team went as far as to file a complaint to the league specifically against Eddings. This doesn't really ever happen, as bad as umpires can be, so clearly clearly the Padres felt very strongly against Eddings, and they had every reason to, considering there were 15 calls that went against their team and only 2 that went against the Marlins in that game. So what did Eddings do the next time he was responsible for balls and strikes during a Padres game? He was even worse, with a report that showed an even greater advantage for the Padres opponent this time, and in the process, 3 members of the Padres were ejected during the game. While Manny Machado was at the plate, he got a fastball outside called for strike 2, clearly didn't appreciate it, as he and Eddings started to go back and forth with one another. Padres manager at the time, Jace Tingler, immediately comes out and starts to argue, probably to try and prevent Machado from getting tossed, only for Eddings to not want to hear any of it and immediately throw Tingler out. It didn't get too out of hand, and Machado was able to stay calm enough to stay in the game, but only for 2 more pitches, fouling off the next before swinging through another 0-2 fastball to end the inning, and Manny lost it. At this point, not caring if he gets tossed because he knows he was going to. Padres coach Ryan Flaherty also got thrown out in just another mess of a game featuring the Padres with Eddings behind the plate. Doug Eddings' latest meltdown, maybe what I think is his worst. Shockingly, it had nothing to do with the White Sox or the Padres, but rather this time the other Chicago team and the Pirates. Paul Skenes is on the mound facing the Cubs at Wrigley, and after a 100-mile-an-hour fastball that was outside, Skenes thought it may have been strike 3, so he started to walk off the mound. Now, this clearly wasn't a strike, so you gotta credit Eddings for making the right call here. But to be fair, if there's any umpire that would call this a strike, it's Eddings. But he actually shockingly makes the right call here, and Skenes has to immediately make his way right back onto the mound. But here's where Eddings becomes a total loser in this moment. He yells back out at Skenes like he's an asshole for prematurely walking off the mound, telling him it's outside. Pirates manager Derek Shelton then starts yelling at Eddings, with Eddings yelling back that Skenes isn't going to walk off the mound like he thinks it's a strike. Watch.
Yeah, see? Don't take it, Doug.
Who cares? Why is he taking this so personally? Pitchers do this all the time no matter who is umpiring. Skenes was smiling, in no way trying to disrespect Eddings. He was just having fun. And if anything, like I said before, Skenes would have every right to assume Eddings calls this a strike. I mean, in the top half of this same inning to start the game, Cubs pitcher Kyle Hendricks had 2 blatant low and outside balls called strikes. It's just ridiculous. Who does he think he is? Paul Skenes' parent? Who is he to yell at him like that when Skenes was just having fun, meaning no disrespect at all? He had no issue going right back out on the mound. He knew it was probably a ball. It's such an egomaniac move by Eddings and shows he has way too much thin skin to have as much authority as he does as an umpire, and he's coming for that Angel Hernandez crown. Let me know your thoughts and thank you for watching.